You need to pay attention to
All right. Hello and welcome to my Hollywood Inspirations. And today I have three special guests. First we have Reverend Everton Anderson, we have Minister Dawn Anderson, and Lisette Anderson. And today we're going to be talking about relationships, how to identify, repair, and enhance relationships. And we're going to define the difference between how religious community versus people who aren't in religious communities, how they define relationships and what relationships to them mean. So I have a few questions and then we're going to do a discussion. So, start off. I have a question for all three of you guys. And the question is, what defines a relationship?
What is what is the definition of a relationship?
Yeah. How would you define a relationship?
Okay, a relationship is actually a relationship doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It's just when two or more parties agree to interact with one another. Is a relationship.
More you want to add to that?
Well, when you're talking about a relationship as far as romance, it's when two parties they enter into a agreement to love and be with one another. So it's a commitment and it's agreement.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I think, it's both physical and spiritual, but I love to deal on the spiritual aspect of a relationship. Because the only thing is because, people fall into sin based on Adam and Eve. But if you see what a relationship is when two people all come together, when two persons come together to be one, that's a relationship. When God created man, then he realized that man was lonely. And then what he did was created a woman, took the ribs from the man to make a woman. And so they come into one as relation. So, even though you have relationship that two persons come together, the best relationship is when God puts you together. That's how I believe relationship is very important. But it's two persons come into a mutual understanding and is willing to submit themselves one to the other. That's how you get a real relationship.
That's good. So we define relationship as an agreement. Two or more coming together, saying this is relationship. This is what the goal is going to be. One person said that relationship is what God puts together. What's that? How would you define a relationship?
I would define a relationship as one thing with many umbrellas. I believe a relationship can be divided into 4 different types of relationships. There is a spiritual relationship, and that's the one that we experience with God. It's a relationship that we can have with the Holy Spirit. It's a relationship that's on a completely different level from any other relationship that you can have. Then there's association, which is a type of relationship where it's you're simply associated to somebody, like a work relationship, a relationship between a subordinate and a boss, or a captain or a team leader. And then you have the friendship type of relationship. I believe in a caring type of relationship. That's a type of relationship. A mother and daughter, a best friend, sisters, things like that. That type of relationship is a deep emotional connection. And then of course you have the common romantical relationship, which is a romance an even deeper connection from that.
It's good. I like all the answers. So, with that said, a relationship is like an umbrella, and it's different relationships. There's other people also say there's the spiritual, there's relationship versus your friendship relationship. Um, there's a difference between relationship between your friends and your family versus romantic. And specifically, what I want to talk about is singlehood, relationship being single, relationship when you are dating or courting, and then engage in marriage. So, as a single person, any advice for the people who are single? How what advice would you give to them to prepare for the next level if they desire? Popcorn.
Well, this is a very unique question because you basically have to deal with spiritual and physical. You know, when you're dealing with a single, relationship and somebody would like to get married. Some people just look on the outward. Some people look on people wealth. They look on beauty. They look on shape. They look on what the person have, and so they want to get into a relationship because they are single. But I believe the first thing we need to do is to follow the principle of the Word of God. It said, "But seek ye first the kingdom of God and all His righteousness." So, especially when you are single and looking for somebody for a long-lasting relationship, and something you need God to direct you. You need God to help you to make the right choice. Because if you look on the outward, the Bible said that men look on the outward, but God looks on the heart. So basically, from a spiritual perspective, I love to tell somebody, whether you are saved or you are not saved, seek the Lord, find a way to reach out to God because He knows tomorrow than today.
I wanna before I go on to the other one, for someone who doesn't know Christ, but someone who doesn't know Christ, but they are looking for their desire, their goal is for marriage, and they're single. What advice would you give to them? Would it still be to seek Christ first?
Well, that's the right option I would give them, but that's not what they would do. Because if a person is in sin and they have not yet accepted Christ, they would try to find somebody that they believe is compatible, somebody they believe can take care of them. Because basically, the first thing people look for is security. And if you are looking for a companion in life, you have to look for somebody who can support you, who can take care of you, who can bring some security, not just somebody who you just want to be with and they can't do nothing for
I like it. Anyone else?
Yes, I was gonna say not just spiritual. So some people might not look to God like we do as Christians, but everyone has that sense of a higher power, their inner spirit, And I think when you're looking for a relationship or a mate, you're trying to get married, you should go within yourself, meditate on it and think about it, and don't just become desperate, you know what I'm saying? And as soon as you see, like, you know, I'm being single myself and knowing women, we have like a list of things that we want in a man. And a lot of times we see like two things on that list and then we give up and we hold on to that. And that might not be who's right for you. And you waste time and years and energy on this person that you didn't finish the list. So if you have a list, that list is your inner thoughts, I would say it's God, the Holy Spirit speaking to you, but it's your inner being telling you this is what's best for you. So you should look at it and really make your list and say what's on this list that is something that is qualities in a person that's going to benefit my life. Because a relationship is supposed to enhance you. When you come together with someone, you're supposed to become better. You're supposed to do better. You're supposed to want better. You know what I'm saying? And a relationship is not supposed to take from you. It should always be adding to you. So if you are, so you should look at those qualifications and those things that you're on your checklist and make sure that's really happening in the relationship that you're pursuing or that you're in. And if those things aren't happening, then you should rethink the relationship. And always have red flags. Keep that list in the back of your mind and in your heart. And when you see red flags, you need to question those and work those things out. And if they can't be worked out, they were there for a reason for you not to stay in relationships. And I don't think you have to stay in a relationship just because you have invested in the relationship. Unless you're married. Now we're talking about before you get married.
Yes.
So before you take that step to marriage, you got to make sure all these things are done, because then that's when we get all these divorces and people are married for 6 months and they give up. That's because they didn't do the work beforehand. So if you do the work beforehand and you work out and you see the red flags, and either you deal with the red flags or you run from the red, you run, you know. And if you do that, when you do get married, you know what I'm saying? Not that you won't have any problems, but those red flags won't be there anymore. And then, you can work things out better. But you have to know the person, and you have to make sure the person is who you want and someone who's just compatible with you, you know? So if you know in your heart that you can't deal with someone that has issues, then whatever the issue might be, if you know that you meet somebody and this person has some issues that you can't deal with, don't try to force the relationship. You know that's an issue, then you should stop it before you invest more time in it. That's it.
What's that same question? What advice would you give to a single person? Or what should, as this person is being single, what should they be doing at this moment in their time right now?
People think that there's like a set way to, be single. The first thing about it is stop thinking about it as being single. You're a person. When you go through life, there are certain things that you need to do in your life before you even dive into a serious relationship. You need to make sure that you are secure in yourself first. And so stop thinking about singleness as, I'm single. I don't have a relationship. I don't have a boyfriend. I don't have a fiance or a husband. Think of it as I'm just living life. And when and you stop thinking about, I need a boyfriend, or you stop thinking about, life with a significant other, then you could truly enjoy life and you won't, have those worries. And the top thing about, being single is that you do need to just be secure in yourself. You need to build your character. You need to, take care of all those things, because growing up, especially when you're in your teenage years or early 20s, you have a lot of insecurities about yourself, about the way you look, about just who you are as a person. And you need to make sure that you love yourself before you can love somebody else.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say a lot of times we're looking to get into a relationship or get married, and we're not ready. And there's work that we need to do in ourselves so that you can be the best partner that you can be. And if you're not at that point, there's no reason for you to be in a relationship. So that's right. Don't look at single as something bad. Look at it as a training ground. You're preparing yourself and getting ready for when you enter into that marriage relationship, which is, I think, something very sacred and that should be taken seriously. And it's a journey, a life's journey. So it's not like it's not like the end of something. When you get married, it's the beginning of the journey of your life. So you need to be prepared and be ready to be in that journey with somebody else.
Yeah, prepare financially, as you said, prepare educationally, prepare emotionally, mentally,
Spiritually too.
right, spiritual, because I love talk from the spiritual, though I born in sin, but I love talk because I have experienced God's provision from a spiritual perspective. And then based on when you become a child of God or a Christian, You understand that you can't just talk to the world you have to talk from a spiritual perspective. God, from the beginning, God wants us to come to Him first. So even in this sinful state, it's still, as Dawn said, God put an intuition in us for us to have a conscience that we need to reach out to Him in whatever way, because He's reaching out to us. And He fall rain and the just, the unjust. So not because we are not saved, we just go do our own stuff. We will pick the wrong choice without God.
So when you're single, it's all about building your character, finding out who you are as a person, finding out your purpose, and making sure that you are financially stable, emotionally stable, as people are saying. Make sure you deal with all your inner child and your traumas.
Your baggage.
And your baggage, yeah. So when you come into the next stage of courting and dating and potentially marriage, that you are whole, because you're not finding your other half. You are two wholes coming together.
Right. And be happy that you are single.
Yes.
Because sometimes people don't want to be single, and many people die because running from singleness into companionship and pick the wrong person. As Dawn said, sometimes we're too anxious. So sometimes it's best we be happy where we are, be content until God made the way.
Yeah.
Being content in who you are and being content in your singleness. There was a post that said that singlehood is not punishment, but preparation.
Yes.
So being content in who you are, this is a privilege that being single to, and if you were in a relationship and it didn't work out, take that to your advantage and to learn and to grow. And that is I love everything what you guys said. So remember, in your singlehood, it's about preparation and being content and finding out who you are and to prepare for the next stage. And the next stage is courting and dating. Now, the way society views dating is we can either date to be in a serious relationship, or we can date and be casual sex. It's a whole lot of opinions and different perspectives on what dating is. And I want to talk about, so the question is I have for you guys, in courting stage, should, when you're courting, should sex be talked about?
Yes.
Okay. Go first.
Yeah, because that's one of the main things. You were born in sin. You have a nature, you see people you like, everything is happening within you from the fleshiness. You have to know what you're getting into. You got to know whether or not the person willing to, whether the person desires sex, because then you just married somebody you don't know you got to cover the ground. You got to have an argument or a discussion with the individual and know what they believe in, what you believe in. You can't just go into a marriage and you don't know that the person interested in sex, the person, and then you go in there and find out it's a trouble taker. So to me, it's important in everything you have to talk about sex, baby, finance, everything. You have to communicate before you get into it.
It's about compatibility.
Yes, and a lot of times people get into relationships and sex is the first thing that they do, and they never even talked about it. And then you have instead of having love and having a relationship that grew, you're entangled in this sexual relationship. And when sex is involved, emotions get involved, unnecessarily, I'm saying, because you feel more for a person because you became sexual with them and you don't even know them. So you don't really love them, but you're in this sex relationship with them that confuses the whole relationship. So you need to talk about it before you have sex. And I don't think that when you're dating or courting, sex should not be the center of the relationship. I know it's hard to tell people not to have sex, but as a Christian, I would say you should be dating and not have sex. Just talk about it, know what each other's wants are, but I said you should not have sex. But people have sex. So don't allow sex to become the center of your relationship. Don't have a relationship with communication. Actually date. Take the person out, to movies, to dinner, to family events. Have a relationship outside of the sexual one. And then that will help in the confusion. Because sex confuses things, especially with women, because we give so much into the sex. When we give sex, it's because we're giving ourselves. And then when we give ourselves, and it's to the wrong person because we didn't get to know the person first.
And sometimes they don't even want you. They just want sex. And once they get sex, people say, I love you. I love you. And they won't wait. No, love is patient from a spiritual perspective. So if you really love the person, you and the person say, well, I love you, but I'm not into that. If you love the person, you will wait. He that wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. But if you can't wait on somebody, if you don't give me sex, then you don't love me. You have to show me that you love me. That's that lust. That's just flesh.
That would be a red flag.
You see?
Because a person that really wants to be in a relationship with you and wants to get to know you and is looking for a future with you is going to want to spend time out of the bed with you. And that's an important part of it.
Right, because they want to see your attributes, your character. They want to see what is in you. But if you just want sex, you got a problem.
What's that? Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a difference between people like to confuse love a lot. People like to confuse the difference between loving a person fully, 100% and wholly inside and out, and loving what they can offer. There's a difference between loving what a person can give you, loving a person's circumstances, and truly loving that person. If you truly love a person, you love them whether they give you sex or not, whether no matter what background they're from, no matter what they're going through, you'll be there for that person. But if you only love what they can give you, that's different. That means as soon as that thing that you love is gone, you're no longer as invested into that person. And people also like to confuse the difference between lust and love because there is a fine line. You can think that you're in love with somebody and you realize, oh, it was just lust or I was infatuated. And you have to learn to decipher yourself and get to the root of your emotions and your feelings. And a lot of times people know these answers and they know that the root of their feelings, but they're in denial and they don't want to confront them because it's too hard or they're too comfortable. And you can't allow yourself to be comfortable. You have to allow yourself to, truly take a look at things from a different perspective and understand that there is a difference between lust and love. And if your relationship is centered on lust, then it's not going to work.
And that's why it's important to wait. Because when you're waiting, then that clarification comes between the lust and the love and the waiting. But when you don't wait, that's when it gets confused, like I was saying. The confusion sets in.
So that's good. We all touched on very good things. So about courting. And I know in the church, I have talked to a lot of young adults, and they have said that normally for talking about dating, relationships, sex, and all that, it has not been from the church. So the question is, should the church talk about to young teens and adults about it, about marriage and how to be, what a couple should be, and why do you think they haven't? Why or not?
Well,
Go ahead to the church.
I would
the
say
church talk to young adult about it.
I think yes, there should
No,
be.
it has been going on.
And some churches do. They have the youth what is that, waiting, the waiting thing. You guys did it when you were, when you're, and you get a ring saying that you're married to God and you're going to wait for marriage.
Mm-hmm.
They have those teachings, but I think it should continue on to that. While you're waiting, while you have your ring, I'm waiting for God. They should tell you what it's like to wait for that right person and to and commit yourself to God while you're waiting. And it's not just like, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing this, no sex, I'm not doing this. There should be group dating. The youth should go places together. How many other groups you got, mixed boys and girls, or women, young adults, and go bowling, go movies, go to other gospel concerts, do things as a group, so you don't feel that, okay, I can't I can't go on a date or nothing. A date does not have to be just two people. You can go on a group date. Now courting, we need to teach more about courting, because I believe courting is when you know that this relationship is leading to marriage. So you're courting, you're getting to know each other, you're finding out finances and how your life is going to be, and that's not a long time. This is 6 months, not less than a year or less. You're in your courting period, and you're getting ready for that marriage. And at that point, you should know, we're going to be married. You get engaged and you get married. It doesn't have to be 10 years. You don't need to be with somebody 10 years to know if you want to marry them. People say, we're dating. How long you been together? Oh, we've been together 10 years. No, you're not dating anymore. You're living in sin now. All right, dating is going out and getting to know someone. How long does it take to get to know someone? 6 months to a year. You should know if this relationship is going any further. And then you should go move into the courting position, where you're finding out the different, entities about each other. And then that should not be longer than 6 months. You get engaged and you get married. 2 years and you're married. There's no reason for people to keep saying that they've been together these many years, 7 years, 8 years, and if you do the work during that time, then, that's what happens.
From a spiritual perspective, you don't even need to, for what you call it, 6 months. You seek the Lord. You ask God to help you and guide you and speak to you and show you. Because from statistic review show that people who live even 10, 15 years together after they married, they divorce. And I just only met my wife for what? 3 weeks.
But no, we corresponded long.
Yeah, we correspond on the phone, but we just met for 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
You see? But I was going by God guidance, God direction. It's important that you let God tells you or give you some information that this is what He had for you. And then you trust God. It's important you trust God, because you will never know an individual, because you are not God. Only God can know who an individual is. They'll show you the best right now just to get to you. But after a while, you see their ugly faces. But when God reveals to you who the individual is, you need to trust God. If God says stop, you stop. If God said go, you go. Because God is not a man. Hallelujah.
He should lie.
Amen.
Going back to the question, whether or not the church should talk about sex and courting, I believe they 100% should. But sometimes when churches do it, they only say, okay, no sex before marriage, court, ask God about your future husband, and then everything will be fine. As long as you wait until marriage, everything will be fine. Mm-hmm. They don't dive deep into it. They don't talk about how hard it is when you're sexually attracted to somebody. They don't talk about ways how you should pray to God and ask for Him to give you self-control. They don't talk about, like I talked about earlier, when you confuse lust and love and infatuation. They don't talk about, more reasons other than spiritual reasons why you should wait until marriage. Other reasons that you should wait until marriage. Obviously no one wants to get pregnant early. Obviously, there are, diseases, things like that. But people only talk about things like that. Like, the church doesn't really dive into it deep enough, especially for young women and for young men. And when it comes to talk about sex and courting, people don't really talk to young men about it enough. They always tell women, make sure you keep your legs closed. Women, make sure you keep your body holy for God. But they also don't talk to it about men enough to make sure that men or young men understand it fully. And I feel like the church or are mature enough. And I feel like the church should pay more attention to the young men regarding this situation. And when it comes to courting, things can be difficult, things can be hard, but at the same time, as long as you have God and you have that strong connection with Him, everything should fall into place and everything will be okay. Which is like as we said earlier, that's why you have that area of singleness to make sure that you are spiritually strong and mentally and emotionally strong.
Good. I like it. So moving on, the question is, knowing your love language. This is something that you can figure out in your singleness, and also, like, I guess you could figure out when you're dating. But knowing your love language, should you date someone or even potentially engage someone who doesn't speak your love language?
I never understood that love language type
Okay,
thing.
so
You have to. This is my feeling when I know the love language, what you need or want from the person.
it's also like
The way that
how
you
you
show emotion.
communicate, how you show
Right.
emotions,
Yeah.
affections and stuff like that.
Yeah, so call it love language. It's just communication. It's your communication. It's how you guys get along. I know they got titles for everything, but it's your life together. We've been married going on 24 years. We learn new things about each other all the time, and but it's all about you how you communicate, and you communicate about everything. You communicate about how you want to be loved. You communicate about how you want to be touched. You communicate about everything. You communicate about how to pay the bills. You communicate about how to raise the children. You communicate about your tiredness. You communicate about your job. You know what I'm saying? You communicate about your life with each other. And when you're communicating with that person, you're with that person knows you. They know what you need when you need it because you've been communicating it through the years, and it's what you grow into. And because what you need in your love, your love language changes. I don't have the same love language I had when I was single. I don't have the same love language I had when we first got married. It changed over the years with you and with your relationship. So what was the question?
What is your love language?
Yeah, what is your love language?
Yeah,
And
so-
should you be with someone if you're not compatible in love language?
Yeah, because like I said, because it's changing, and you have to learn each other and grow, and you're supposed to compromise. We haven't talked about that. That's a big thing in a relationship, and so when you first get together, if your love language isn't clicking, you have to compromise some things for that person, and that person has to compromise some things for you, and then your love language will change with each other, and with the relationship.
And love language.
No, she's not strong.
Okay. So love language is about communication, and I was gonna say how do you communicate, but I think you touched on it. Communicating, just getting to know someone, and if arguments come, it's being able to be patient and to listen to the other person, and knowing if they like affection, if they don't like affection, or too much, and things like that.
Well,
But
Well, because I talked about compromise, and then I just realized a lot of people hate the word compromise because they think they're giving up something of themselves. But we can't look at compromise as giving up anything. You're changing and you're growing for your relationship. And if you're in a relationship where it feels like you're compromising to where you don't know yourself or you're losing yourself, then you're doing it wrong. You need to, pause and look into that relationship if it's right for you, because you shouldn't feel like you're losing yourself or that
You're the only one.
you're the only one compromising and you're giving up of yourself, because it shouldn't be about giving up of yourself. It should be about trying to change and grow with your partner.
to piggyback on what you said, so what would you say if there's a couple and one person feels like they're always compromising and the other person doesn't want to change.
And it's not a good relationship that needs to end.
Not that it needs to end. It doesn't need to end. It doesn't need to end. It needs some communication, and it needs maybe some counseling, but they need to work it out. And the person that feels like they're always compromised needs to express that and what it's doing to them, to that person. And if that person loves you and is really invested in the relationship, they will hear you and work towards,
And in any form of relationship, one have to be willing to suffer. So
Or compromise.
compromising, right, come like suffer. Because it is that sometimes one may be giving up more, the other not giving up. You have to look beyond, and one have to, suffer some type of, patience or whatever. So if you're not willing to suffer, that's a part you're not going to make it.
And then sometimes in a relationship, sometimes at some points it seems like you're compromising a lot now, and then later on the road it's the other partner. He's
You just
the
build
one
up.
that
It's like a cycle.
and it's a cycle. So you might be giving up a lot at this moment, but later on it's going to be the other way around. It depends on the relationship and what's going on.
So it's all about adapting
Adopting,
Adapting and growing.
identifying.
to the different stages of your relationship as the years go by.
And you can't always look for when you're in a relationship, especially once you
For the
get married.
negative section.
No, I was gonna say you can't always look for you to always feel, oh, I'm so in love, you know what I'm saying, and butterflies every time the person walks in the room, because that's not love. That's the part of that infatuation, and that's the newness of a relationship. Yes, but once you're married, there's gonna be times that you're gonna say, oh, you're gonna remember that and you're gonna feel that. But in your day-to-day life, when you're raising kids, changing diapers, going to work, you know what I'm saying, and doing this and doing that, you're not gonna always feel like that. But when you're in a quiet moment, you're sitting down, you should be able to look at that person
And be happy.
and content. And know that he loves you, know that you love him,
Right, because somebody giving you flowers, that is not loving.
Yeah.
That is just a part of something.
That's thoughtfulness.
Yeah, love is when somebody sit down and observe what the partner, the other person, trying to contribute to this relationship. If there's a contentment, if they see that there is the person trying, that's where love develops. Love develops as you move along. You observe life and what the person is doing.
I like all of it. We were talking about courting and dating and love language, and before I want to touch on is expectations when you're in a relationship and marriage. Is having expectations that a bad thing? Because a lot of people say, oh, when you have too much expectations, that's when you have miscommunication and then disappointments and stuff.
No, I wouldn't think it's a bad thing because you must have expectations.
Yes.
It's only how you deal with it. Because if you have an expectation to get this, and then it is not coming your way, are you going to allow expectation because you don't get that? Maybe just say your husband or your wife allow you to get this, to get that. But the expectation was to get 4 or 5 things, and because you still and because it not reach you. Some people messed up their life because they expect that, and you have to balance it out. So expectation is great, but sometimes disappointment comes, and you have to learn to live with that.
Yeah. Well, no, 'cause I don't think expectations are a bad thing, not necessarily, but it could become a bad thing if it's not communicated correctly with your partner, So, and if you have different, yes, and if you have different aspirations and expectations, you mean in the relationship or general?
In a relationship.
Okay, so now see, if you have different expectations in the for a relationship or what's going to happen, that needs to be voiced, that needs to be talked about and communicated, because it's going to start to have some problems later on. Like if you get into all right, so you're dating someone, and in your mind you're saying, okay, I'm gonna date him for a few weeks, and then I expect for us to move into the courting section, and by the end of this year, we should be engaged. But he's thinking, I'm gonna have fun as long as I can have fun, because I don't plan on getting married until I'm 30, and you're 23. So he's talking about 6 years of, that's a red flag.
Maybe even things that are
deeper. But or
like deeper, like say the male or the guy wants to was thinking in his head, okay, yes, I'm gonna get married and then we're gonna have kids, and then the woman's thinking, oh well, I don't want kids.
mm-hmm.
That's not something I've ever talked about.
Yeah.
Or maybe she can't even have kids, but they've never had that conversation. So now they're in a stage in their relationship where they love each other, or maybe even they're married, but they never had that conversation. And so now he's like, well, I want kids. And she was like, I don't want kids. And that's a big problem, because now they have different goals in life.
Yeah, that's something that needs to be worked out in the courting stage and the dating stage. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, but goal is different from expectation.
Well,
Is it though?
is it?
It's kind of different because you're expecting something, like it could be said, correspond, but it's a goal like I want 3 kids. That's my goal. Expectation is to expect the person to do something
Right.
beyond what you gave me.
So your expectation for marriage is to be married
Together.
in a year, have kids the
Yes.
next year. You know what I'm saying? So it's a timeline, and that needs to be communicated. Make sure you're both on the timeline, because your partner could think, okay, we're young. Women are having kids until they're 50. We can wait. We can get, and have kids 10 years from now. You'd be like, wait a minute, I don't want to be 50 having kids. You know what I'm saying? I want to have my kids before I'm 30, or whatever. So those are expectations for your life that needs to be, because now you're going to share your life with someone. So you need to communicate, because maybe that's something you can compromise with, or maybe it's not something you want to compromise with. So you need to make a decision. But is it worth staying in this relationship if that's not something that can be changed or compromised, between the two of you? It's all about communication.
Communication is key.
Mm-hmm.
So going on to the last topic, marriage. We talk about singleness, we talk about courting, and possibly being engaged. Engagement is you are working towards being married.
Mm-hmm.
What is marriage? And you have counseled many people before they're getting married. My question to you, what is the first thing you would tell them? Someone's in couple therapy, but before
Marriage counseling. Or what is it? Pre-married. What do you call it?
Yeah,
Counseling. Pre-marriage counseling.
Marriage counseling.
Yeah.
Before we get to that question, what is marriage?
Well, marriage is a relationship between 2 persons. That is marriage. When a man take on a woman to marry and then become one, because so marriage is oneness.
But no, I'm gonna say legal. Once you're married,
Yeah.
that's the difference between a regular relationship and a marriage. Is because it's legal.
Yeah.
You're bound by state and by God now.
Right.
You have a certificate saying it, and you can't leave this relationship without going to court. Now, you know what I'm saying? You're in a relationship, you become one, but it's legally binding agreement contract now.
Right. Because that's when you stand before the person and say, you have now you become married, you sign the certificate.
Right.
So you become one, marriage together. That's done. Right?
Well, not really, but I'm just saying, I want to say that this comes back into waiting before marriage, because a lot of times people, like Manu was saying earlier, in these 8-10 years relationships, just as dating, and they've done everything already. They moved in together, they got a dog already, they've had sex. That's like, they've paid each other, taxes and everything. That's another reason why you need to wait till marriage, to make that marriage even more special and even more sacred, and even more to draw even more of a stronger bond between those 2 people. So when you wait till marriage, you stay a virgin all your life, and then when you get married, that's something that nothing can take away, because this is my husband, this is my wife, this is the person I've waited my whole life for, saved my whole life for, that is a whole nother level of that relationship, which is, another reason.
Like, so marriage is something that's legally tied, saying that this is my husband, this is my wife, and
No one else.
and we're here for the long run, long haul.
And I don't know if everyone feels this way, but me personally, once I became married, I looked at the relationship different than I looked at any other relationship that I was in. And like when you're just dating someone, you can leave today. You know what I'm saying? Pack your bags and get out. You could say that, you know what I'm saying? Or you could just not call a person ever again. You know what they call it, ghosting? You could ghost someone when you're just dating them.
You can't ghost someone.
You
That's
can't.
toxic.
That's toxic. But you could just not talk to that person anymore. You can just end it, nothing else, never see the person ever again, you know? But once you became married, it's not, it was like, maybe because we're Christians and we got married in front of God and we said God put us together, it was like a tie, a soul, you know? And when, it's like, it's like he hurts, I hurt, you know what I'm saying? You can't just break away from that. When it's a real marriage put together by God and it's meant to, and you really, it's a commitment and your whole heart and soul is in that commitment. You can't just do and say anything in that relationship, and you can't just walk away. You know, not only because it's legally binding, you have to get a divorce and split up your house and split up your kids and all that terrible stuff that comes with the divorce, but it also is going to do something to your spirit, mind, and soul with that separation.
Now to the question, what is one of the first things you say to a couple who is about to get married?
Yeah, one of the first thing I ask them, do you love this person?
Why do you ask that?
Because people, as I said, believe lust, sometimes take lust for love. They just see the person have beautiful shape and pretty faces and maybe whatever the person have, and it's I love it. Just lust. Lust after the body. It's not love. Because I always say to them, my parents told me, never forget this, never you married somebody for face, for shape, for what they have, because a car accident could cause the face to burn off. Fire, something would happen. Sometimes women have baby, and one baby, they were looking so beautiful, and one child they had, it changed their whole body structure, and nothing they can put it. And the men married them for shape, or the women married the men for, and that's what it is. And once they find themselves, they disappear. They don't want them no more. Love is not on the outside. Love comes from the inside. So make sure there's something you see in the person that you love why you want to marry them. That's what I tell them.
So if you're looking for marriage, there should be something
On
more,
the inside.
something more that you feel for the person other than that. They may be pretty or they have a good job, that's what Paul says. But there should be something
about that
you.
person, that their character,
Their soul.
their soul, who they are,
Yeah,
that you love. Yeah.
And what would you describe it as, like a drawing, a poem, or how would you describe that?
Yeah, like a drawing. I don't. You have to feel it to know it, and when you feel it, you'll know it. You know what I'm saying? But it's something like once you feel it or you see it in that person, you're not gonna just walk away from it.
Because love is just more than just looks. It's an inner connection, you know, or you going by God's word, God appointee, God given, and you have to trust God, you know. And then again, love grows. So, but the first thing, do you sure this is the person you want?
And making sure someone is the person. If there's such thing as a soulmate, but the person you're married, would that be your soulmate? Because marriage is defined as you're becoming one, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. So would that be your soulmate, or a lot of people believe that you can have multiple soulmates?
If you marry the right person, it should be your soulmate. Because God creates somebody for you, or God destined somebody for you, designed somebody for you, placed somebody in your path for you to marry, to grow older, to have kids with. He places that person in your life. So if that is the person that God has for you, then that is your soulmate.
And I believe God has uh, everybody for a person. God could, but we would not give God a chance sometimes and to make the what you call it, the perfect plan. And that's why I like the story about Abraham and Isaac. You know, when Abraham was old, he sent his servant to find a wife for Isaac. He was following the plan of God, and the servant didn't know what to do. The servant prayed and asked God to direct him. So that's the formula. We have to ask God, because we will take up the sheep in wolf clothing. People, thief, robber, murderer. You know, we don't know what we're getting because we're looking on the outside. But when you pray and God direct, God led you into the perfect design. Because as Blessed said, God has a choice for you. But if you will not seek Him for Him to direct you, He leaves you and you would make your own choice. Now, God is willing to work with you, but sometimes you go through pain and suffering because God did not make the choice, you made it yourself. But anybody God choose for, there was sorrow and pain, but it always worked out victorious.
That's good. That's good. Anyone else want to add anything? Good. So marriage is becoming one, and um, and when you are one, it's the best feeling in the world. You're one with the person that you have asked God to choose for you, because you guys are you're going to be compatible on all levels, right?
Yeah, and whether you can compatible, God knows the individual and God knows you. God knows what you will do and God knows what the individual will do. God knows that the individual will hurt, you will hold, but you will come to some common understanding. Because He chose you, because He knows it will work. You both will work with whatever you're dealing with.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because you're not gonna always be compatible in every area. You're not gonna have the same interests
Right.
always with your partner. But you're gonna be able to share in whatever you know what I'm saying? But you can't expect that, okay, if he doesn't, like to, I don't know, go dancing, then we're not compatible. He can't be my soulmate, he can't be my husband. No. As long as he understands that you like to go dancing, you know what I'm saying? And it's okay if you go dancing with your friends, or you guys dance privately in your room, whatever. You work, that's the communication. You communicate out something that works for the two of you, with the differences in your interests, because you're going to have different interests, you're going to have different things, but you should be able to work with each other and share in each other's interests or whatever.
Amen.
Okay, so we are closing. So just to wrap up with the whole discussion about, we talked about singleness, courting and dating, and marriage. We talked about expectations, sex, love language, how to communicate. Singlehood is all about preparing, knowing who you are, and becoming secure and one with yourself. So you can then, when you become in a relationship, you know your wants and what you don't want, and preparing for the next step. And when you're courting, it's just getting to know the person that you are courting and having fun. And then if you decide to get engaged and married, you are finalizing and completing, I guess you say, yeah, being complete to begin the journey of marriage and becoming one, and building a legacy. And that's all that I have to say. Thank you guys for being on this panel. Hope we can do it again. Thank you guys for watching. Please comment, share, and subscribe. And thank you, and see you guys next time.
And like.
And like, yeah.